Hello, beautiful angels. As always, it is such an honor to be here with you all in our sacred circle that we created exactly for this purpose. For those who are truly committed and want to have a community of harmony and loving kindness, and be of service every day and support each other, that we can get together like that. So we got back from Mount Shasta last night. Some of you are still at Mount Shasta, I see, Christopher. Some of you traveled home from Mount Shasta. And so I will share a little bit about what took place. And even though we concluded our event on Sunday with Don Humberto, that yesterday actually is when the earth truly was able to receive what we co-created. And whether you were there or not, you were in our hearts. And if you were there, I'm so grateful for you, your loving kindness, harmony, support that provided incredible abundance for the Kara Nation. And of course, our purpose here is not that. Our purpose is always to be generous and kind and in service and selfless, as there is no self that can benefit. But number one purpose is always to be of service to Divine Mother. And this process of ascension is her ascension, not only in this world, but in all worlds that are ascending. And so I'm going to speak a little bit about what took place. My purpose is always to be seeing into the ethers. I know that on the outside we all look human, but deep down we all have certain gifts. Whatever it is, each one of us might have a completely unique gift, some skill actually that maybe we trained for many lifetimes and not just on this planet. And so when seers see energy, they do not see just the world as we see it with our two eyes. And so I'm going to share a little bit about the seeing that took place during our gathering with Don Humberto. And again, I think it will be important for all of us, or interesting at least for all of us, whether we participated or not. And for those who participated and maybe do not see into the ethers to see what really took place. And so to start with, Mount Shasta, that the natives call Waika, is a powerful portal that actually contains an entire civilization. Some people call it Telos. And I got to visit this civilization several times. And so when I go to Waika, Mount Shasta, I go with open mind, open heart, because you just never know what's going to happen in portals like this. There are certain openings, not just on Mount Shasta, but actually even quite far from Mount Shasta in the small towns or villages around Mount Shasta. And these openings are electromagnetic in nature. So you could be at Mount Shasta and experience nothing, or you could be staying in a rental home, even north of Mount Shasta and experience quite a bit. So again, it's about going in this open mind, open heart. You just never know. And so our gathering took place at this very powerful portal. And there are, of course, many of these powerful portals all around the world. And it's not limited just to, the ones that we know. I'm actually always surprised to find new portals of incredible power. For example, here in Santa Rosa in California, where, people would not suspect any powerful portals. And yet Yogananda, of course, knew. And even our dear Yogananda, he wrote a wonderful poem about Santa Rosa. And he was visiting in Santa Rosa and dedicated his autobiography of a yogi to his dear friend here in Santa Rosa, Luther Burbank. And so Santa Rosa definitely has something incredible here, and it is the land. It always is the land. It is always nature. It's not something that humans created, but it's land. And so we were working with Don Humberto. So, some of you obviously met Don Humberto. We are not allowed to take pictures because Don Humberto is a mystic. It's a priest. He's a priest of the Grand Central Sun. And as such, he works with living energy and all these beings that came originally from the Grand Central Sun and then embodied here during Mu. and then later even, of course, Atlantis, but Mu was the mother civilization. And so they work with living energy, which of course is our Shakti. It is our Sophia. It is our divine mother. She is Mahaprakriti. She is the living energy in all of nature. And because they work with living energy of Mahaprakriti, and they have, obviously different names for her, then they don't want to be capturing that energy in something such as photos. And so here is a screenshot from a documentary that we found online, and I will mention it, of Don Humberto, just so that you get a little taste. As always, the biggest misunderstanding, one of the biggest ones in the false matrix, was our attachment to what people look like. And we were looking for some kind of divinity and signs of divinity in people's faces. And divinity cannot be found fully and completely as a reflection in the physical body. And so we always look beyond, and we always look into the divine self that we all share. And for each one of us, no matter what the human being is doing or looking like, the divine self is always beautiful. And it has nothing to do with facial features. And so the high priest of the Grand Central Sun, Don Humberto, is a mystic, and his disciple Daniel was able to, as he said, not translate, but to convey what Don Humberto would be sharing with us. But actually, his sharing is not something that is verbal, it is energetic. And what we received from Don Humberto, I also have a picture here from the documentary, which is called The Path of the Sun. You can find it online. And the filmmakers, they have different documentaries on their website. The website is thepathofthesun.com. And if you are interested, you can actually watch some of the documentaries about the Kero nation. And so, as Daniel, the disciple, always tells us, Don Humberto is not a shaman. And that's a really, for me, very important actual distinction. I would not be working with a shaman in Peru, but I'm very always interested in working with the high priest from the Grand Central Sun. For those of you who don't know, Daniel always explains the shamanic culture uses hallucinogenic plants, and the Kara people, the Kara mystics, do not. And for me personally, that's very important, because that's not the path that I would recommend. I recommend the path of energy and the path of meditation, the path of breathing, and the path of inner process. And so Don Humberto, he works obviously from Mahaprakriti. We all probably heard Pachamama. Pachamama for many means Mother Earth, but Pachamama to me is another word for actually Mahaprakriti, the great form of the mother. So Pacha, they explained, is a form, and Mama is obviously the mother. And we know that our cosmic mother nature is the mother of form. In, for example, Sanskrit, she would be called the Devi, and then all her forms would be sub-forms, and they would be called devas. Now, I started to experience the devas very, very strongly during the Lion's Gate, which we just had really a month ago. And I'm not the only person in this world, of course, and that's always wonderful. So the mystics that I know started to perceive the same reality that's unfolding here. And I love validation, I love confirmation, because it means it's really happening in the quantum field. So I just recently heard from a great mystic in the United Kingdom who also was experiencing exactly the same thing, that during the Lion's Gate, just before really our event with Don Humberto, or our work with Don Humberto, the Devas and the Angelic Queendom started to actually become much more tangible than ever before, as far as I can tell in this lifetime. And so our work with Don Humberto was deeply, deeply actually intertwined with the work with the Devas. And you and me today, we will get to experience the work with the Devas and the Angelic Queendom. This is something that actually will be really important to humanity as we move forward. And I always say, if I don't know, I don't know. If I know, I know. So all I know that right now it is absolutely important and also essential as part of our ascension process to start working with the Deva, which is the mother, the ultimate, the Devi, and then all her subforms, which are the devas. And Don Humberto, of course, works with the devas too. They just have different names for the same thing. So, for example, with Don Humberto, we received several initiations. Some people came for just group one, some people came from group two. We separated into two groups, so we offered two groups and smaller groups and bigger groups, just so that it's worth for him to come to the US and to make such a big journey from the high mountains of the Andes, where he lives with his small nation, the Caro Nation. Daniel said the nation is very, very small. And so, again, you will see some pictures here that I have from the documentary, or maybe you've already seen those pictures. You know, he himself calls it living in poverty. And so, the work, of course, we want to make it as valuable as possible for the whole nation, for the families, for the children, for everyone, so that they can thrive. So that's just one of the goals that we always have. So we had group one, group two, and something in between. And so some people received 6 initiations, some people 4, some people 3, but everyone received at least 2 initiations. What is the initiation that we received? Just so that you are, if you, I don't know if Don Humberto will ever come back to the US because, you know, obviously he's also, his body is aging. Just using the new language, it's not him aging, but his body is aging. So we don't know. He would love to come, but again, I don't know. And so, if you are interested in the future, if possible, working with him, then the work that we do always has certain processes that are always followed in a specific sequence. The first process is generating a lot of living energy. And that is something that each individual, of course, brings with them. But we also work with the energy of the mountains, which again is a deva. Every mountain has a deva. And again, deva is a divine feminine being of the mother because it's the mother of the form. So we have big devas, we have small devas, we have giant devas, we have miniature devas. We can say that, for example, there will be a deva in our physical body, and we call it the body deva, but we also know it as a body elemental. We also have a deva in a flower. We have a deva in a rock. We have a deva in a tree. We have a deva in a river. We have a deva in a pond, in a lake, in a mountain. So all these are forms, but they are all conscious forms of the mother. And so we generate that living energy with Don Humberto when we call upon the devas of the mountains, and they call it the spirit of the mountain, Apu. And so we call in the Apu. Now, for me as a seer, I always want to be seeing who's coming in, what's coming in, if I'm able to. And so every time Daniel was invoking the Apus, they actually were coming. You would see unbelievable amount of brilliant light that would be gathering through the invocation. So the invocations are done in incredibly powerful, confident process. What you see, for example, in Don Humberto is the divine confidence we often speak about. These beings know who they are, and because they know who they are, they know exactly what they're capable of. That's it. There is no ego, there is no doubt. If there is a doubt or ego, meaning like, I'm so great, or I'm not great enough, I don't know, so that doesn't work. But divine confidence simply works because you know what you know. And that means I am that I am. And so when the invocation was taking place, the Apus, the spirits, the devas of the mountains were coming to assist us. So that's the first process of bringing the spirit, the energy of the spirit in. Now, everything is so big, of course, because it all originates in the spirit and then it goes into form. And so we are in a world where spirit came into matter, and yet spirit never departed from where it is. And so when we talk about spirit as the I am, spirit as the eternal, the unchanging and unchangeable, then the light of the spirit, of course, is what eventually created form. So when we call upon the spirit, we call upon the spirit that is fractalized in matter or in manifestation. So that was the first process. Then there is the process of what they call limpia, and you might recognize it from Spanish, to clean. So that's a little bit of cleaning. And then after the cleaning is the process of initiation, which in the language of the Kara is called karpai. And so the initiation, karpai, is actually truly an initiation. Now, what is an initiation? I've been thinking about a lot of different processes we have with energy. For example, when we say to someone, bless you, when blessing is just the word, it's nice. It sounds really nice. When it's just an intention, also very nice, bless you. But actually, to bless someone is to gift them an extra energy, energy that they didn't have. So they now have more energy. That's really a blessing. Specific energy or simply energy that has not been yet qualified. So the person then gets to do whatever they want to do with that extra energy. That's a real blessing or a very intentional, specific type of energy. And so initiation is big energy. It's very specific, big energy that might work differently through different people, depending, of course, on the evolution of their own in this body nervous system. As you know, initiations are transmissions of light, and it's electricity, divine electricity. Initiation can also be a transmission of magnetism, and that would be initiation with love, because love is magnetic and it has the quality of magnetism. So the person who is here in the body, has a body, needs to also have a body that can receive at least a little bit or a lot or quite a bit of these electromagnetic energies so that they are specifically just beneficial to them and they are not disruptive but just perfectly attuned to whatever they can receive. So in this case, the initiation was a transmission from the Grand Central Sun. And of course, we have what we call the divine qualities that are being transmitted all the time by the Grand Central Sun. But the high priest is able to actually take each ray of each quality directly. So again, we're talking about being able to touch high voltage. And he is able to transmit the high voltage energy into the person sitting in front of him into several centers. It could be the crown, or very often it is the crown. It could be the third eye through direct contact. It could be also into other centers, for example, the centers that we know it as our solar plexus, or the heart, or of course our hara. So all these different power centers. And so when this transmission takes place, it is always a specific ray that's being transmitted to the collective one by one individually. So in the morning before our ceremonies, Don Humberto would know which ray from the Grand Central Sun wants or maybe even needs to be transmitted. And so, for example, it would be a transmission of the love ray. It would be a transmission of the divine feminine ray. It would be a transmission of the elemental ray, and so on and so on. So it could be that whatever is needed will be needed. We also received a transmission from the fourth dimension. And so we know that the fourth dimension, we would refer to it as the astral plane. And the astral plane always had the ugly in the lower plane, but also the very beautiful in the higher 4D, so higher astral. And so, of course, we were transmitting the beautiful higher 4D. We also received an incredible transmission of the divine feminine, and that, of course, is divine mother. And that transmission they call nustas as the divine feminine, the different embodiments of divine mother or the qualities of divine mother that we know. And again, it was really all about service to our divine mother. Now, incredible things, of course, unfold when you receive transmissions from the Grand Central Sun. Let me see if I have more pictures. I have here, this is how you spell Caro. So this is Don Humberto's village. This is his community, and this is how they live, just so that you know. So when we generate a lot of abundance for this great mystic, for the great mystics, then this is where it goes to support, obviously, the living conditions and the service and the work of the care. And during the event, we experienced many different miracles, but we also worked with Orin, and I'm going to mention that. So, the way that we do it, we always have 2 days where I do my transmissions, and during those 2 days, Don Humberto gets to do his private sessions where he's able to be of service individually to a person and in a very life changing way. And so during those 2 days, I usually transmit whatever is needed. And this time it was the work with the davas, and it was the work with the angels, and it was the work with our etheric body. And that's something we will do here today as well. And unbelievable, really, things unfolded. Now, this time I could tell that our mother, divine mother in our earth, she was receiving it, receiving it, receiving it, but she didn't give me, at least, a signal where I would say she's done. And so I thought she would be done on Sunday when we concluded, and she would give me a signal that she received it all. But again, it didn't happen. So we spent Monday cleaning, as we always do after the event. And then we got home last night. So when we got home in Santa Rosa, and I mentioned Santa Rosa, according to Yogananda and Luther Burbank, who was a great mystic who absolutely understood Mahaprakriti, and he was able to communicate with her. He was able to assist her in modifications, which is the purpose of the human being, to always assist Mahaprakriti, the great Mother Nature, in her own improvements and to assist her in her own process to always create more beautiful versions of herself. So Santa Rosa, again, has incredible power. And so what I always do, which is my process that I was told to do, is when I go to different places around the world, no matter where, but usually we travel to places of some kind of significance like Mount Shasta, then I bring that living energy with me specifically, and I have a process of bringing it to Santa Rosa and then fully gifting it to this portal. And so as soon as we get home, I don't even unpack. That's the first thing I do. So I went to do that. When I went to do that yesterday, I put my hands on the ground and she was buzzing. I've never ever felt her buzz. Never. Not like this. This was different. It was so different. She started to buzz. And so I gave her all the energy from the Karpai and all the initiations from the Grand Central Sun. And I went through like a 15-minute process. I had my phone next to me and my phone started to explode. And guess what? It was Geomagnetic Storm. And it was Geomagnetic Storm 1 and then Geomagnetic Storm 2. So I didn't think much of it, but I texted a friend and I said, this was really strange. She was buzzing. I've never felt her buzz before. Well, this morning, if you watch Suspicious Observers and Ben and Space Weather Online, scientists had no scientific explanation for what happened yesterday. Scientists simply did not have any explanation. The particles that normally would cause a geomagnetic storm were not detectable. There was nothing that could have caused that geomagnetic storm except for one thing, which I know to be true, and that is the energy of the Karpai. And so that was the signal. She received it yesterday. And every time her electromagnetic field changes, you know that we all change. Because humanity lives in an electromagnetic field. Yeah, and I didn't watch Stefan Burns, but I am sure that he too thought the Earth received something really, really major. It affects, absolutely. It is our nervous system. So, so much happened at Mount Shasta. I don't think I can even, deliver it all because I also want us to be able to receive this incredible purification in a few moments. But what I want to say, I'm not a scientist, but I would say that a lot of the times when we receive these revelations, they could be extremely scientific. And I wish I had a science background where I could fully understand what it is that Divine Mother is telling us. But during the work with Don Humberto, I received information on September 4th about the core of the Earth and that it changed. And that it will change the electromagnetic field. It will change even gravity on planet Earth. And gravity was not just a natural force. Gravity, yes, was a force that could be detected within the world, But gravity also was what held the dream within the dream together. So it also acted as a force that was pulling us down. And as you know, we are now in a different design. We are in a design of actually ascending, which is an upward pull. So very different from the downward pull. So again, I don't know how to explain scientifically everything I've seen, but what I've seen is how now also our etheric body will, which is part of our light body, will, as we purify it, will be able to reflect better our new DNA, which is being changed and activated. Because in the old world, our DNA was manipulated. And I know that all of you know our DNA was massively manipulated. And so we all ended up in these ancestral patterns, physically, emotionally, mentally, and who knows what. But actually, there was a big manipulation of the physical body itself. It was a big manipulation of all the systems within the body, of all our organs, and it was genetic. It was a broken code. An original code is the divine code. The code is the cosmic DNA. And of course, in Cosmos, we would not call it DNA, but cosmic pattern, cosmic code, divine code. You could say the code of God, the code of the goddess within us. And of course, through the fall, we not only, there was such a multitude of different forces that worked against us and within us and upon us and through us, that our code, as you can read about in the Second Coming of Christ by Yogananda, our code was also deliberately changed to not only contain the original code of God, the divine code, but also now to contain a different code, the code of the adversary. And that is actually what happened to us. And so now, as we are ascending, the code has been deleting, especially since 2020, from our genetic material. We also no longer are burdened by ancestral DNA. We now are liberating, and some already liberated, in terms of that code. And that will be reflecting into our etheric body, into the beautiful web of life around us. So there is just so much to be said. Yeah, truly, we have been changed. We have been changed from within. And, we still have the forces of imbalance in this world, but I would say they only have few more months, and that could be several months before they cease to operate on this planet. So we are going through an unbelievable process of liberation as humanity, and it is only up to us now if we want to come from an evil energy, unfriendly energy, unkind energy, which all is a version of evil, of course. If we want to be enemies or if we want to be friends, I recommend coming from one energy that I would say is very beautifully expressed in loving kindness. Just this new vlog that we co-created with Patricia, if you've seen it. I listened to it again and again and again as we were packing and cleaning. I had it on the whole time. It's a very powerful vlog. I know we still call it vlogs, even though vlogs don't really exist anymore, but it's a video. And so it's on YouTube. It's posted on Patricia's channel. But there was something that I really stuck with me, as it always does in every video that we create with Patricia. And it was that service is a service of love. And that service is a service of joy. And that service is really what is right now required of us, in that integrity, in that selflessness, and not being misled by the forces of imbalance, to be strong in our loving kindness. So let's move on. We are still using the activation of the new earth codes through Mother Water. So that's something that definitely is still important. every day if possible, or at least whenever you feel like it, to be whispering your codes. It's something we did also as groups at Mount Shasta. We were on beautiful land that actually so much reminds me of the new earth. And if you happen to have land, if you happen to have backyard, front yard, whatever it is, if you have land, this is the time to beautify and to create these patterns that you envision that the new earth, of course, has. One thing, and among many, that I always share about visitations to the new earth is that it is the world of Mother Nature. It is the Mother Nature that actually is the queen of the new earth. And then humanity is not the dominant species, as it happened, during the false matrix. It is always about integrating into nature in very futuristic and very beautiful and very harmonious ways. And so, yeah, pruning and all of it, a little bit like Luther Burbank. We are here to be co creating with nature and to assist her. So, when you see that you can improve upon her, that is actually the task of the human being, to work with the davas, to work with the angelic queendom, because we are becoming angelic humanity. The original design of humanity, anyway, was to become angelic humanity. So, what are the angels? So, we work with Orin, and Orin is way beyond an angelic being. Orin is one of the immortals in cosmos. And these immortals do have counterparts, and Orin's counterpart is Daben. We have not done much work with Daben, some of you have, but we do work with Orin. So I was told before going to Mount Shasta that we were going to work with the Devas. And so, of course, Orin has an answer to all things. And this is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful coursework. I love them all. And to me, I always say it's like having a treasure, and in a treasure chest, in a treasure box, you have all the different courses with Orin. And so, any given moment, you know where to go if you want to increase your light, if you want to accelerate your evolution, if you want to do divine manifesting, if you want to work with divine will. Divine will is also absolutely essential, for every single human being. When people don't know divine will, they cause, I would say, chaos. They cause imbalances, because divine will is never imbalance. Divine will is always harmony. And so it is through divine will, and we just don't know what we don't know. So if a person doesn't know divine will, then of course they become what I call a troublemaker. And so divine will is always harmony. Even when there were troublemakers in Yogananda's life, he always says, even though you have boundaries, even though you will not let them to be near you, even though you will not allow them to be in your presence, because why would anyone allow troublemakers in their presence? Because they don't know what they don't know. Thank you, Gurga. And so even that, Yogananda always responded with love, but always with divine power. Because if you know divine will, you are not a troublemaker. And so working with divine will is really important for humanity every single day, because we have been disconnected from divine will. I'm just going to share one more thing about the disconnect from divine will and what it did, and then we will receive this amazing, amazing purification. So it will, if you are interested, of course, I wanted to, I always get permission from the Orin and Daben Foundation. I want to make sure that we are in compliance. And so we are allowed to share usually one track from a course. And so that will be the track that I found to be really powerful and effective for all of us, and that's purification. So as mystics, a mystic is not someone who just closes their eyes and sits still. A mystic is someone who has some level of self-realization within, which is a breakthrough. And it's a break free from the old self. And it's something so internal, so private, and so personal that it might be different from each one of us, but it's in the same direction. the same direction is away from the old self, which is always personality-based self, into the truth of the divine self. The truth is never words. As we always say, the words are nice, but words, what can they really express? Can they express the divine self? No, they can't. Because the divine self is not words. The divine self is a presence. And it's a presence of divine consciousness that has never, ever been tarnished. It's a divine consciousness that never changed. It's always one with Source. It's one with the Creator. It is one with the Spirit. And so that's the ultimate truth of every single one of us. Now, when beings in this world disconnected from the great heavenly spirit that the Native Americans knew as Wakantanka, the Creator, then when they disconnected from the great heavenly spirit, they became arrogant. The disconnect is arrogance. It just means saying, I don't need you. I can do this on my own. I have my free will. I have my own energy. I have my own life. Forgetting the most important thing, which is, oh my gosh, I do not exist without the light of the spirit. And so this world specifically became very arrogant, but it was not the only arrogant world. It was not the only fallen world. But one thing is when humans started to think they can exist without the great spirit. Exactly. So that is actually the fall of humanity. One of the things, it was very complex, but one of the things. And so how do we want to live? We want to live in that honoring love. And that is our connection with the Creator in every moment, and to truly be in love, because that is the supreme relationship. If a relationship is not a relationship of love, it is not supreme. And so our Creator, no matter what we imagine it to be, the light of the Spirit, that one and only relationship that is supreme is love. And so every morning, there are so many things we can do, but if we just remember to be in love and to be that force or the embodiment of love in this world, everything is between us and the Creator, really. Everything is between us and the Creator. We are an open book, and that open book is being read by the Creator in every single moment, which includes our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, our words, all of it. It's incredible. And so, Force of Love, I recommend. And so from this amazing, amazing work, we will be working with the radiant angel of the Devas, the mother of the Devas, the Deva, the mother of angels, the mother of Devas, and we know her in cosmic realms as Ma-Ra, that has been translated into our human languages as Mother Mary, for example. And so the mother of angels, the mother of Devas, of course, Divine Mother, I bought this very beautiful, kind of large statue. It's stone statue, and it's 47 inches, so it's tall. And she was with us the entire time during our work, during the gatherings. And so she is a living statue. I wanted to bring her home with me to Santa Rosa, but she wanted to stay at Mount Shasta. So you see the mountain, you see Mount Waika, Apu Shasta, Apu Waika behind her. So she's the one that embodies just, I recommend having a little, of course, living statue, something that you infuse with the energy of the beings that you work with for your altar, for a quicker connection. So altars help us just to have a quicker connection because we have an object that serves as a portal to that being that we work with, or source that we work with, creator that we work with, divine mother we work with. And so from this work with Orin, I'm so grateful we get to do this. We will now receive an incredibly powerful purification of your etheric body. Now I will, we don't have time to go into all the details. I don't want you to have to be on this call for too long, but we will continue this work, of course. My daughter is pregnant, so we're expecting the baby kind of around the 14th. So as long as I'm able to do these calls, I will do them. so that we can benefit from this work. And so I'm going to stop recording. And so this was a magnificent purification. It's also a reconnection. We were reconnecting something so important. Thank you. We were reconnecting the straw, that the pillar of light, the chimney that goes from the human being up into the soul plane, and from the soul plane into the plane of source, which is our spirit, into the I am. I'm still recording this, so it will be posted in Circle. And today at 5 p.m. Pacific time, we will again work with the same purification, but I will share something completely different. And I will also record it and also post it in Circle. Because what's happening right now is that obviously we are changing physically. And for the physical body to change, the etheric body has to change. The etheric body is where all information from, unfortunately, all past lives has been living and then having a direct impact on the physical body. A lot of human illnesses actually do not originate in conditions of this lifetime, but from the etheric body. So when a person changes the etheric body, of course, they liberate the physicality as well. This is all part of the ascension process. Huge liberation of the physical body has been happening since 2020. The other thing is that as we work with the devas, we are also obviously working with Divine Mother directly through her queendom. Every deva is a deva of the mother. Every deva is a mother of a form. And that is the reason why we also always recommend eating a plant-based diet so that you are receiving life force from the angelic queendom, the queendom of the devas, and not from dead animals. Another reason why to maybe explore if you haven't done so already. It just is bringing more etheric light into the being, of course. We are becoming light beings, angelic beings. There is an evolutionary path for the humankind, and that is to once again become angelic. Angels don't have wings. That's always, a nice depiction of it. But actually, it is energy that is freely flowing in the toroidal field. So as we are activating our light body, it's not something someone else can do for us. We are actually doing it ourselves. And that means through our choices, we are liberating where the light is not flowing. We are liberating light and matter also. Another thing is that as we do that, we are experiencing inner transformation that is disconnecting us, and we are actually ascending from the first three lower chakras, because illusion and delusion and Satan, the adversary, and all the other energies that were created could only live in the first three chakras. They cannot live in the heart. Anything below the heart is where the illusion of the adversary could live. So you can imagine that's our physicality, our emotions, and our mind, human mind, the chattering mind. But above, starting in the heart, is our ascended self. According to the Karo, they see us as fields of energy, so they don't see just the human body, of course. They see that the first three lower chakras are dissolving. And that, of course, doesn't surprise me at all, because we are ascending from the trap. And the trap could only live in the body, in the emotions, and in the human mind, not in the divine mind. Yeah, as soon as possible. Yogananda, thank you. Exactly. Of course, sex is a trap too. That's a big, big topic. And we will be exploring more and more. And today at 5 p.m., if you are in a time zone that you can join, then I will go into the depth of the etheric body, and we will again do the purification. And I will explain a little bit the work with the devas, and I'll post the recording. So once again, thank you so much for being here, for participating so harmoniously and in very supportive ways in the circle, and in really being the ones who are the co-creators of a really valuable community. So thank you so much, and many blessings.